Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and we got a great episode. With the season upon us, so many questions are swirling around this team. Not only questions about things going on right now, but general projections, what could happen by season's end, and so much more. Today, we reached out to you, members of the pod, and got some great questions here that we're going to get into. So get comfortable, and let's dive in.
He has definitely improved. He's been phenomenal in both preseason games. I mean, phenomenal. He had the one bad interception against the Bears down the middle of the field. And, he'll learn his limitations and things like that. Do I ever think Tua's going to be Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers? No, I don't think he's going to be that. But do I think he can win games and you can get to the playoffs and the Super Bowl with Tua? I do. I think so. I don't think they're going to ask him to make the team all about him. The Dolphins, as a team, passed the look test. To me, they look like early 2000 Patriots, 89, 90 New York Giants type of football teams where they're big across the line, they're fast where they need to be, and they execute, they understand situations.
We put the call out for questions, and you guys answered via our Instagram at PhinsPod, so follow us there to participate in future editions of these Q&As. But our first question comes from Chase Cormier. He says, does Miami's defense have the potential to be top 5 by the end of the season? Great question, and the answer is even better. Hell yes, Chase. The Dolphins' defense has the potential to be top 5, if not top 3 in this league if things work out, and that's the caveat. Injuries can always take place, but aside from that, the talent's present across the board. Now, I'm not sure that the Dolphins are going to be top 5 in QBR allowed or top 5 in rushing yards allowed. Instead, I think they're going to follow the philosophy that has been preached so far under Brian Flores. Bend, but don't break. Give up all the yards you need to, but don't let them get in the end zone. The Dolphins had one of the league's best red zone defenses last year and the top third down defense, and that generally is the recipe for success. When you throw in the fact that this secondary is all back, with a potential upgrade at free safety, now with the combination of Jason McCourty and rookie Javon Holland, who again changed that number to 8, which should look sweet. So the coverage is going to be good. What about the pass rush? Well, Miami's brought back most of their defensive line. The only big difference, instead of having just Kyle Van Noy featured on the edge, the team's going to rotate Andrew Van Ginkel, Jalen Phillips, and Brennan Scarlett. That rotation and depth should be a benefit to the defense at large, and a lot of the sacks that Miami gets are schemed up. Now, getting organic pressure is still important, and you hope Emmanuel Ogbah has a big year in that department, and hopefully first-round pick Jalen Phillips shows a little something too, but Miami retained Jerome Baker, who's an excellent blitzing linebacker, and should tally over 5 sacks by the season's end, if not 10. I think Stan McGuavin's going to have a similar role as a blitzing linebacker. So Miami's going to be sending guys all over the place in ways to create pressure. And unlike other teams, the Dolphins can actually get covered sacks. Most teams operate the other way, right? Try to rush the passer to bail out your secondary. Make sure the passer's uncomfortable so he rushes a throw so your secondary doesn't have to cover for long. But the rest of the league doesn't have this elite secondary that we have on their back end. Miami can flood the field with defensive backs, confuse the passer, and ultimately allow a rusher to break free and come in for the kill. So to answer the question, Chase, yes, Miami has all the pieces to have an elite defense this season. The only major question: can they stop the run on a consistent basis? They have the guys for it. And for the most part, at least in Raekwon Davis, Zach Sealer, and Christian Wilkins, they can do it. But can the linebackers be trusted to stay disciplined in those lane assignments, those reads? That we're going to have to see. I think the run defense would be Miami's downfall, frankly, and that honestly would be painful to watch because everything else is so good. Watching teams chop us up for 5-6 yard gains at a time on the ground, that would suck. I need to see a stingy run defense, and if that's the case, absolutely top 5. Thank you for the question. Next up from Granta Claus, who do you hope Miami will bring back from their cuts? Well, considering that the practice squad has pretty much been made up and most of the guys that I generally wanted made it back, specifically Derval Quiroz-Neto, Kirk Merritt, and Larnell Coleman, who was stashed on the IR. I guess there's one player who was also, he wasn't cut because, frankly, all the players who were cut, aside from Benardrick McKinney, he's the one player I obviously would bring back. But I think the question's asking more bubble guys. I guess the one player I would have liked to have seen gotten more chances in live action is running back Jordan Scarlett, because I like the way Scarlett carried the ball. He's elusive, and he possessed some of that twitch, which is great to have at the position. Hopefully, with him on the practice squad, he can continue to develop to the point where he gets called up. I think he could honestly be something similar to a Savon Ahmed or Myles Gaskin. D. Lombello asks, when are people finally going to realize that the Dolphins don't want Deshaun Watson? Oh boy. This one's sticky because people have strong feelings across the board. We have people out there saying the media is lying, making this story up, and we have others who think Watson to Miami is a done deal. Look, here is the deal. We have no idea whether a phone call was made by the Dolphins to Houston. But to be honest, if Chris Grier was worth his salt as a GM, he would be all over every opportunity that's across the league. Do your due diligence at least. So no, I don't think Miami has not asked about Watson. I bet they did, along with 31 other general managers in the league. What I also think is happening right now is that Miami's being brought into this by Watson's camp. That's why we're hearing the Dolphins' name being associated with this exclusively. It's Deshaun Watson's agents who want this to happen. They want him to get a new deal so they get paid, and they want him to be happy. It's their job, and he wants to be in Miami. Because remember, this all started before his allegations because Watson hates the Texans. He has that no-trade clause, and he wants to play in Miami. So with that in mind, the media throws in Miami as the front runner because signs are pointing there. And now you can throw kerosene on that fire with all of that Tua slander, and this story just writes itself. It's a combination of the doubt that the national media has had of Tua, as well as the fact that Deshaun Watson has been linked to Miami. Now, if that link didn't exist, if Tua had balled out last year, I think the story would be reported very differently, but it's just a combination of two factors that, when combined, create a headache for us Dolphins fans. But all it takes is a hard look at what's happening down here for you to realize what the truth is. Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. He's going to write his own destiny. That's all. If Deshaun Watson is ever the quarterback for the Dolphins, then something went horribly wrong. That's how I see it. Next question is from Bahamas Boy. He asks, how do you think our O-line will be this year? And that's the question of the year, Bahamas Boy. But my personal projection, this offensive line will likely just be average. Somewhere between 14th best and 22nd best. And we can win with that. Those rankings are likely coming from rushing yards per game and the amount of sacks and pressures given up. But the beauty of this offense is Tua should be getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And if he does that effectively, then the reliance on good sustained blocking goes down. But I am worried when it comes to the running game because Miami invested in beefy guys up the middle, and it's time for that investment to pay off. We need to see growth from Solomon Kindley and Robert Hunt. Specifically Hunt. He should take a big step and be someone we can rely on to run behind in short yardage situations. And hopefully you see Liam Eichenberg claim that starting right tackle spot, but there's where my concerns generally come in. I'm saying hopefully quite a lot. Things could just as easily go south, and Tua could be running around wild back there, and our run game's non-existent, and we're one-dimensional, and our offense sucks. The reason I don't think that's going to happen, though, is because of Brian Flores. He saw what he saw last year. He saw what we saw last year. He knows the weaknesses of this team. I don't believe he would be comfortable, given the time that he's had with Chris Grier, to not enter this season feeling comfortable at the offensive line. We can judge him for whether he should have felt that comfortable or not later. For now, I'm going to trust his instinct and trust that it's generally going to work. Again, to be winners, we don't need a top 10 offensive line unit. If we get a top 10 offensive line unit, I think we're going to be a top team in the league, but we can still be one of the better ones with a middling line. I hope they impress, but we all know the reasons for our fears, the deep-rooted reasons for our traumas associated with the offensive line. Next question is from Cali Fins fan. They ask, did they keep 7 wide receivers for trade bait, or are the Dolphins preparing for inevitable injuries? Great question, and I could totally be off on this, but I think we will genuinely go into the year with 7 receivers and keep 7 all year round. And if you think back to last season, Miami kept 6 wideouts, and that one proved to be a bad idea because we were hit by major injuries and forced to go deep into our roster with Isaiah Ford and Mac Hollins, so maybe having more than 6 last year would have been good. And 2, it was more acceptable because we ran a more run-heavy offense. The team would not space it out often, and they'd line up 4 or 5 receivers. That would never really happen. Instead, you'd rely on 2 or maybe 3 every play based on the formation. So having 6 receivers made sense, and it let the team keep extra guys elsewhere, mainly on the defense. Now, the team's philosophy on the offensive side has changed. It's more about attacking down the field, using speed and spacing to put defenders in conflict, and then have a smart quarterback take advantage of that defender. So I think we will see mostly 3 and 4 receiver sets as the base, with 5 receivers out there on multiple plays per drive as well. In that case, with that style of offense, 7 receivers is going to help keep the guys on the field fresh, and like you said, help alleviate the hit that will likely come from inevitable injuries, especially with this group. Now, if any one of these guys would be trade bait and get traded at this point, I think it's Jakeem Grant. But that points us and leads us directly into our next question from Dakota Hetrick 03. Who are the Dolphins' tradable players? I just mentioned Jakeem Grant. He is someone who could be dealt early in the year if he shows out and boosts his value in the first couple weeks. Considering our depth at the position, flipping him for a mid-round pick and allowing us to call up a receiver from the practice squad is not the worst idea. Although at this point, I've learned my lesson. Jakeem Grant's likely going to retire a damn Dolphin. I have not wanted him on the team for 2 years now, and he just keeps coming back. He is Freddy Krueger. Some would say Miami could trade Devontae Parker, but I don't think that makes sense since he hasn't played at all this preseason. His value is not at its all-time high. All the reports are that he's injury-prone, and the last few weeks really haven't helped that image, so why give up on a relatively cheap, talented wide receiver who's proven that he can play at a high level in the NFL? Realistically, if you trade him, the other team's going to get the benefit of that value. And the Dolphins need a big-bodied receiver and threat in the red zone aside from Mike Gesicki, and that's Devontae Parker. So, no, I don't think he's trade bait. I would say, if we need to get creative for the question, Miami could try and move one of those corners, right? If the season's going to crap, trading away Xavier Howard makes sense if you're thinking long-term and don't plan on re-signing him, which I don't think we do. But if the team is trying to win now, then trading him or Byron Jones is pointless. And the same is the same case for Byron Jones, because his versatility and young age make him someone that we can expect to be in Aqua and Orange for a few more seasons. Thank you for the question. Banana Man 007 sends in this. Do you know of any other NFL teams running the RPO system, the run pass option system, or is Miami the trailblazer? Great question, and the answer is a little complicated. Yes, other offenses do have RPO elements in their scheme, all with different variations, right? Patrick Mahomes will run RPO concepts, as does Lamar Jackson. They just do it in very different ways. Teams use it across the league. But where I think Miami's going to be considered a trailblazer, to use your word, is the fact that the RPO is going to be the staple of this offense. And the reason for that, we have a quarterback who's expertly trained in making those snap decisions, being able to look at the field, understand the coverage to a deeper level than most, and having guys like that lets you put the ball in his hands much, much more often. And in this offense, if it hits, which I believe it will, it perhaps is going to be an offense that gives this quarterback the most trust. And I don't mean trust on the line. Like many guys across the league can audible out of a play or shift their play side. I'm talking about the amount of reads that Tua has to make and the trust that's being given in him in that snap second after the ball is snapped. In the RPO, Tua has multiple options on a given play. It's not like look here first, then look here, then look here. It's all this stuff is happening based on what the defense is doing and how the defense plays their coverage. He has to then make a decision as to where to put the ball. This is a decision that must be made in that split second. The sooner he makes it, the higher the chances of success are for the play. If he's slow on that read, if he can't see the field well, the entire offense is going to sputter. Other teams have more traditional 5-step drops, read the field right to left, left to right, vice versa. Go through your progressions like we talked about. Not Tua. His progression will happen much quicker on those RPO plays, and if he's hitting, Miami's going to lean on it. I mean, that shouldn't be that surprising considering that's what he's been known for. He came to Alabama because of his promise, and he showed mastery while he played, specifically of the RPO. He elevated that Alabama program and made their offensive attack something noteworthy. He's been called the best RPO quarterback ever by Trent Dilfer, who we've now learned very biased. And, of course, just last week, Dan Orlovsky of ESPN called Tua the best RPO quarterback currently in the league already. So thanks for the great question, Banana Man. The Dolphins are doing something that other teams do, yes, but we will be doing it at a much higher frequency. And in an ideal world, our success with the RPO should also lighten the box to help open up our running game as well. Carlo Ochoa asks, thoughts on Gerrid Doaks being cut? Well, I'm disappointed, but not because I think it was a mistake that he was cut. The fact that we were able to bring him back on the practice squad is a good sign, and it's going to allow us to see him grow and develop. I'm disappointed because I thought he would flash a bit more in the preseason and be able to earn a roster spot and a job. He didn't. Although I don't love the idea of Malcolm Brown being our primary short yardage back, Doaks also didn't show that he was ready either. Once he is, Miami should likely elevate him. If they've proven anything, it's that they like working with their running backs behind the scenes and bringing them to a point where they can then contribute. I mean, think of Myles Gaskin. He was a 7th-round pick who did nothing his rookie year, got better in practice, worked on his body, worked on his craft, then showed out as our starting running back. Savon Ahmed came out of nowhere as well to become a rotational starter. Doaks will be given an opportunity to hone his craft and get some live reps. I hope he does, but if the coaches didn't see enough in practice to keep him on the active roster, I'm going to take their word for it. Xander Santalucia asks, who is your favorite player? And this is a tough one. There are so many Dolphins legends to choose from. Guys I love because of what they represented for a specific era, right? Rashad Jones for a specific era, Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas for a specific era, Cam Wake for a specific era, even before that, right? But I don't want to go before that because it'll give it away. But my all-time favorite Finn, it's basic as hell. I'll give you two. My favorite player of all time and my favorite current Dolphins player of all time. But my favorite Finn of all time, basic as hell. You can't go wrong with him. Ricky Williams. I fell in love with football partly because of the way Ricky ran the ball. I remember chanting "Run, Ricky, run" at the TV. He was electric, powerful, tough to bring down, ran angry, and frankly looked graceful on the open field. Truly a pleasure to watch, and sorry that the world was not as open-minded back then as the world is now. Knowing what we know now, he was definitely treated unfairly, and his early departure from the league and our Miami Dolphins is a tragedy as far as I'm concerned. Absolute legend. Wish his career ended differently. And my current favorite Dolphin is Xavier Howard. I mean, aside from Cameron Wake and a fleeting moment of Rashad Jones, Howard is that guy that we can point to and say, look, we drafted this guy, developed him. Look at him now. He's at the top of the class at what he does. I think Howard's game is amazing. He is the best modern-day corner in the game right now. His ball tracking ability, as well as his twitch to react to receivers, elite receivers, amazing. And seeing him shut down guys week after week, guy after guy, to help this team win and get better, it's been a pleasure. It's why we had so many episodes on all that drama surrounding X-Man a few months ago. And it's why we're going to be so sad when he moves on at the end of this year. But hey, that's for another episode. For now, 25, my favorite Dolphins player by far. And we're going to wrap up the show with a Tua question, of course. This question is from J Vega 1402. They ask, how much do you think Tua is going to improve? A stat prediction for him? Okay, so look, we've talked a ton about the specifics, so I won't bore you by repeating why I believe so much in Tua. And trust me, we will continue to repeat that in the coming weeks. And leading up to the season opener, expect a Tua versus Mac Jones video next week. But for a stat projection, I'll let you know what I really think. And hold me to this in case I'm horribly wrong or, hey, maybe damn close. But with 17 games being played, the numbers will be adjusted. I believe Tua will have over 4,000 yards passing, but around that, 4,000 yards passing. That's about a 240 yards per game average. And I think he's going to toss 30 touchdowns. Yep, 30. You heard me. Maybe even more, but for this prediction, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and I foresee 8 interceptions. With the added amount of passing reps he's going to take, the interceptions are going to go up. That's why likely 8. Maybe he gets into double digits, but I'm not going to necessarily assume that, considering the style of quarterback he is. To put it in another way, Jay Vega, I think that by the end of next year, the narrative surrounding Tua and the future of the Miami Dolphins will be far different. I think this is the season that Tua puts the Dolphins on the map. With the help of Brian Flores' defense, he's primed for a true breakout year. So, no, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I think that's kind of the floor of what he can do. I really do. With Waddle, Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, an improved offensive line, not a great one, an improved offensive line, and a stout defense, we should be controlling games from the moment kickoff happens. But anyway, I'm really excited to see Tua's year and what I assume to be a breakout year.
I forget your exact words, but you talked about Miami giving you a feeling of a team that's coming on.
Yeah.
You know what they are in their last 25 games under Flores? 15-10. So it's not like they're just like barely around 500. They've been a nice team that just needs a quarterback to be consistent. So they are right there.
They're right there. And now you got, last year we just missed out on the playoffs. We went 10-6. We know we belong. We got a few other pieces on the team. The one thing anybody that knows me, the first thing I look at always on a team is go offense, defensive line. I mean, they got fucking boatloads of offensive linemen and boatloads of big dudes on the defensive line and linebackers to go along with it. So there's never going to be a game or a team that they're outmatched up front. That's going to give them the fighting chance. And then you go, damn, okay, pretty good scheme. Great scheme on defense. Great corners. Pretty good safety play. Oh, receivers are better this year. So they just have the look of a team that, again, I don't want to say playoffs because the AFC is real, and especially the AFC East. But I would be shocked if they're not, again, like last year, right there, last game of the year, in it, or maybe even in the playoffs. I think they're that caliber of team for sure.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Timothy Ritchie and Brian Guger, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description, or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the show is available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram @PhinsPod. I hope you all have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.